any kind of information within the chat, who you are, where you came from, what you're doing. I'm recording this session. It will be on Hera TV. I've shared the link with you all in regards to the Hera TV site. I've also opened up a WhatsApp chat. So if anybody wants to join that to keep in touch and continue the dialogue. My plan is to do these sessions once a month. And the whole point is that we're gathering intelligence for how the city is going to be. So for some of you who may not know what we're doing with Hera, let me explain. I have a few slides, but I don't want this to be so much about Hera, but so much about you and what you want in the city. So I joined Hera about a year ago. Marinella Mapuri is one of my friends, and she was the prior CEO of NetJets, and she is into philanthropy full time. And so Hera is her female empowerment organization. It's about helping women get an education, get a job, make a living, own their own home. But the bigger project is the city. So we're building a city that is going to be based on the future of humanity, for all genders, for all religions, for all nationalities, with honoring women around the world. So we want at least one city on the planet that has the voices of all the women, that it is a livable, healthy city, more green, more healthy, more livable, not so much about corporate towers with, their name on top, right? So, and since women are experts at raising kids, taking care of family, taking care of the community, working, they've got a real sense of strong EQ and how we should possibly create a better environment for living. So that's why this city is so important. So many of you know that we're in discussions with a few countries, France, Morocco, Panama, India. And I think, Morocco is speaking up the loudest. So don't know exactly where we're going to be, but we hope within the next 6 months to a year that we have the land negotiated and the contract signed. And then the funding will begin. We've already got some funding, but we still got some more work to do. So anyway, what I'd like to do, and just so you know, I'm recording this, it will be on Hera TV. And I want to open up to you all to share what you think, what you want, what you think is important to have in the city. And whoever wants to go first, just unmute yourself and speak up.
Yeah. Hi, Mary. It's Graham Baker. Presumably, does this fit largely into the same scope of what we discussed around Panama, the city in Panama? Because we did an outlook there of what a city would look like in 2035, and I think we got a fair way down the road on that. So, is that work that we can reuse and move forward with?
Yeah, absolutely. We ran into as we were negotiating the land, we ran into a hiccup because they actually wanted us to have 50 hectares of the 4,000 hectares. We were understanding we had the 4,000 hectares. And so they wanted us to be within their city, and that wasn't going to fly. So we have to be a city on our own. So we pulled away from that location. But we are our partner, Geoversity, which was butting right up to our land. They are strategic partners of ours. So we are going to build a biocultural center there. So that will be in the process. But Panama still wants us to do it, but there hasn't been specific land identified. So, but you're right. Whatever you presented to us in the past is still good.
Okay, super. Is there a forum on the past material? Do you want to share some of this material on this group?
If you want to share the information and put it in the WhatsApp group, Graham, you're welcome to do that. So part of my doing this TV program is to hear from the voices of women and from men in regards to how they want the city to be. So not just technology, but cultural, spiritual, laws, technology, all of it, right? So it's all going to be very important in the city.
Okay, All right, super. I've taken, well, we'll go back on the recording of this and I'll make notes on those and I'll add that into the overall scope that we've already looked at.
Yeah, so put it, put the stuff in the chat here and then also in the WhatsApp group, Graham, would be great.
Yeah.
Susan.
All right. This is such a great idea. I can't even explain how excited I am for you all. But one of the things that we're struggling, because I focus on emotional intelligence, right? And teaching the millennials that emotional intelligence to navigate through, education, mental health, it's life education. So, and one of the things that we're battling with is trying to implement here in Canada into the academic system, life strategies, right? And that's such a challenge. So if we could build a city where the education system is on life strategies, primarily relationships and love, and what love is all about as between human beings, never mind romantic, from a very young age, wow, you guys will seriously take over the world, because that is what we're having major barriers here, because I'm a master coach. So, but I coach on life and emotional intelligence. So if we can start from the foundation of a system that has that in it, wow, this is going to be exciting.
Very great, very great. Do you have some documentation on that, Susan, that you can share, like in the WhatsApp or in the chat at some point on this work?
Laura looks like she has a lot of
ideas. Laura's raising her
She's
hand.
like exploding. So I'm just sharing my challenges here in terms of what I've been trying to do for the culture and sociology. That will change the world.
Okay, Laura, all yours. Your mic is open.
Master's sociology, PhD, child development, family studies, master's counseling. Okay, positive intelligence. There's emotional intelligence. There's intellectual intelligence. And there's positive intelligence. I'm sure many may have heard of Brene Brown.
Yeah.
Anyone? Okay. Brene is the why. Shirzad Shermain is the how. As a mental fitness coach, I work with Shirzad Shermain. He's worked with us as a Stanford lecturer. He's worked with over 500,000 CEOs, Olympic athletes, all from the janitor to the bedroom, to the boardroom, to the classroom, to everywhere. Young people, old people, wise people, elders, not necessarily old, wise elders. It's a mechanism in order to maintain our ability on a daily basis. We go to the gym, right? Physical fitness, mental fitness, using our positive intelligent quotient to maintain our ability to stop the saboteurs, say, I'm not listening no more, and call upon our sage. It's a program which changes lives. And it's so grand, it's difficult for me to even convey. I'm so much more happy and I want to share everything I can. I do not want to compromise the discussion. Positive intelligence is just literally, if everyone could just take a moment, and can you place your index finger and your thumb together? Just so you can barely feel the ridges of your fingerprint. And just listen and feel. Did you come to that space in that moment? Just that moment, 10 seconds. Saboteurs you cannot self-sabotage there. Call upon your sage. You innovate, you navigate, you explore, you empathize, and you propel.
Great. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Marisol, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So I was just listening, and by the way, thank you for that fingers exercise. The tips, that was very, very good. I do have some visions regarding the city, but first I have some questions. The city, is it a place where people will live? Like who's gonna live there? Like how is the plan, the demographics for the city? Because yes, the educational, it is certainly a prime, how you say, pillar, but also how people is gonna develop economy within the city. So I just want to know what kind of demographics have we planned?
Yeah, so, obviously, whatever country that we land in, there'll be people probably from within their country that will go there. But obviously, this is open for all genders, all nationalities, all religions. So it'll be a full, vital city of, several million, but we, for us, we have three major components that we are building for Hera, which is the convention center, the knowledge hall, the university, which will be based on the future of humanities studies, and then the museum. And so those are the three major components that we will be contributing to the Hera City. And then, of course, Gil Bakhtiar, who is the architect of all of this, he's just joined the call. He will also, set the parameters for the city, right? Because it has to meet all the sustainable goals. It has to be extremely green. It has to be one within the nature of the country that we land. And a space of really healthy living. I mean, I'm not talking about like, gypsies and a bunch of tent kind of thing, right? I mean, just have the opportunity to be the #1 city in the world. Wouldn't that be brilliant, right? And since we've got raw land and we can do this, and then it'll be, the only city on the planet that is very focused on the feminine energy of what we can bring with our EQ, right? I mean, men have done a brilliant job in building all the cities around the world, but they're usually very focused on money, money and corporations. And I don't think we were sent to this planet to do that. I think it's about, living healthfully on the planet and humanity. So, but anyway, that's my response, Marisol. Sorry it took so long. Go ahead, Susan. I think Marisol.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. The way that I had envisioned this city, the same that as I envision many other communities. Mari, can I just take a little bit about my project, and then I can actually complement it to my vision into the project. So I have a company which is crowdsourced and crowd-owned by many people. It's called Fabulous Futurist. And what we want is to deploy technology into communities of 1,000 people. Those communities are going to have all basic needs: water, electricity, and then we have to develop a bartering model, which is not monetary, it's bartering. And of course, education and love and consciousness is part of this sharing economy within the community, right? In these things, you have, for example, ideas of who is going to live in these communities. So one of the issues that happens, which I'm very, very supported, it is about stopping human trafficking and pedophilia, right? Which is one of the things that, it's like now with the time of COVID, women has been more exposed to more human trafficking and more pedophilia, right? Because people is at home and, the economy, girls are being sold in the borders of Venezuela and Mexico. So that's one of the things that we say that maybe for these communities is to have, the mothers, those ones that cannot be, that are vulnerable with all of these kids, have them there, but still we need to develop for the children a level of education, just as you say, Susan, with love, with different, because they have been in such a traumatic experience. They don't believe the system. They don't know what the system is, right? But we also have to be aware that this is not just rural communities and it's not just charity. Hera or all of these communities are a new model or a new economical model that it has to be totally different than the broken one, right? And we know that the broken one is broken pretty much because there is a layer of projections and money and stocks and speculation that is just on one level, and everybody is putting money into there and losing it because there is no control, right? And it's so funny to see how people is trading now thinking that they are going to make money. None is going to make money, right? So technology has to go into these communities. Education has to be into these communities. Bartering economy has to come into these economies, and safety. So everybody has to feel very safe. I work with renewable energy. I work in a corporation in Norway. I also have found the Chamber of Commerce in Norway, Colombia. I have been helping with technology. I'm a technologist myself. I've been advising startups. I've been in venture capital. So I'm having COVID, by the way, COVID positive. So please forgive me with the coughing. So the thing that I have seen in the last 5 years is that everybody is going towards smart cities and data, right? And fertilizers and precision farming with sensors and all of that. None of this has actually come to Latin America and to Africa, and governments don't know how to deploy any of this stuff. So I really imagine a city kind of like how it was in the old times, where actually people is, live in a more ecological way, where schools and everybody's entrepreneurial, where they trade, but they don't trade. They trade, but the trade actually involve the ecosystem. Meaning we do have tokens for water, we have tokens for for sound, for frequency, for love, for education, but not tradable into equity or things. It's more into bartering. I'm sorry, I have to stop because now
Yep. Take care of yourself, Marisol. Mariana, did you have something that you wanted to say? I saw your note. Mariana? Well, maybe she stepped away.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Mary, no.
Yeah. And Mariette.
Mariette?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you
No,
have
no,
any-
I was just really thinking about the demographics of, what your plans were. I'd just like to hear what your thoughts were on, is it, are you going to attract like couples with children, singles, like elderly? Is there like a percentage, or, what's your plans for the demographics long term? And I think it's a very timely, what the last lady said there is very timely in terms of the feminine energy within some of the cities, especially in the UK, because there's like such an outcry now about, women reclaiming the streets.
Yeah.
Because of there's been a very sad murder there over the last few days, and then even over the day after, there was like a rally, a female-led rally, and the police were very sort of violent with the women, and it's really bringing to light that women aren't safe in the streets. And then there was even the whole conversation with government around the police had said that women should be staying in after 6 o'clock, and then some lady, then a baroness in the government said, well, what about if men stayed in after 6 o'clock? And that created, like, everybody was horrified at that. So I think like women are actually realizing, especially in the UK, that they're not safe in the streets. And then they've looked at the demographics now, or the statistics now, and 97% of people have had some, like, of girls and women have had some experience with sexual harassment at some time in their lives. So they're saying that, something needs to change. So I think that would be definitely a big win for a city that could actually, be safe for women, and that be a huge focus, that women could go out and like roam freely and not be in any fear of being attacked.
Yeah.
And on the back of that, though, there's a lot of men, because obviously there's just a small amount of men who are responsible for these activities, and like there's been a whole like throwback for men as well, that's saying, not all men. So like there is men who really support, to want to keep women safe, and they're asking men actually to educate their children, educate their sons, and actually, if you're out in the street or whatever, like call out to a woman to make sure that she knows that you're not a threat. So I can see, like, that sort of energy around the city would be really positive, for women.
Yeah. No,
But I'd like to get chatting to you about your whole thoughts, your vision, about what your demographic vision is.
Yeah, so very good question. And really, we want to open this up to, all genders, all religions, all nationalities. I almost, I feel like when I lived in New York City, it was very fascinating, but it felt like it was my hood, even though it was a big city. The diversity was so awesome, and I so love that. And I would love to see it be that way. Obviously, there'll probably be locals who will want to move to whatever country that we land in, right? But we want to make this open and inclusive and diverse for all genders and nationalities and religion. That's really important to us. But we do want to have a strong feminine theme to it in regards to we want to hear from the women's voices in the city, you know, what they want in the city, because we're really not accommodated in any city in the planet. We basically have kitchens that work for us, but nothing else really, right? So, you know, being able to have, you know, like daycare centers with retirement centers combined, right? Things like having a vegetable garden in so people can get free fruits and vegetables from a park, you know. So there's a lot of things that we want to hear from people and what they think is important, and both from technology wise and my background. I mean, I've been with Motorola as a leader, with Motorola, AT&T, and GE. So I was doing smart city technologies back in the 90s, and we just didn't call it that, right? So a lot of my projects are case studies, or my team's projects are case studies at the MIT organization or campus. So there's a lot of really great technology, but we also want to use the stuff that's not so invasive to the privacy of people. I think that's a thing that's really discerning to a lot of people, because their data is so unbeknownst to them. You know, like I look at the Huawei network immediately from a 5G perspective, and I say no, right? So, but obviously we're going to evaluate everything as we go forward. But we don't want to look at just the city as just the technology alone, but everything around it in regards to how do we live better, right? So did I answer your question, Marion?
Yeah, you did. And I think it's important as well within a city, especially post-COVID times, that people want to feel connected. And, you know, that's not just, you know, with technology, as you say, although that's very important. But I know we've did plans over the last couple of years for a retirement village in Ireland. And, you know, some of the things that we were really focusing on was, well, again, that they're, you know, they were like safe in their homes, but also like, what you talked about, vegetable plots and things where people could get together, and like a community center and activities and all that sort of stuff as well. So I think feeling connected is something is which is going to be really important to like families and the development of young children and everything in the future post COVID.
Yep, it does take a village, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yep. Laura, did you want to say something? You're
Sure.
raising your hand.
Yes, ma'am. So I think from a sociological perspective, there's so many levels here. And from a systemic perspective, the city cannot survive on its own. It cannot be a biosphere. It needs resources from the external source. And I don't really know, because there's so much to be revealed. Yes, Sage, that I'm unaware of, that it can't survive by itself. So these are just rhetorical questions. To what extent are healthy, quote unquote, respectable sources going to be able to filter in and not tarnish the mission? My sense is that, for example, with pandemic right now, and it's been alluded to this, are women safe in the home? Are men safe in the home? The shadow pandemic, domestic violence in the home. Right now, it's just exploding. Mental health. To what extent are people aware, and do they have access to available resources? So to create a city, which is amazing, to what extent do they have opportunities for resources? Do they stay within the city? Do they have access to external sources? This is all just rhetorical. Right now, for example, the shadow pandemic, it's something so simple as, if you're in a conversation, a phone call, or a Zoom with a friend or a loved one, and you have a sign and you're talking about a recipe or your children, and the abuser is walking in behind you, your friend, your ally will know something's up. It's something as simple as that. Things cannot be conveyed verbally, but they can be conveyed within the eyes, and the eyes have it. That's not a concern, just an opportunity for exploration. Would it be self-contained? Would it exist on its own? And what filters are brought in for support, meaning monetary? I hate the money part. It's got to happen that way, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know the business side, so I'm going to shut up real soon. I think this is amazing, and I just think the resources that need to be available for if it's a closed container, so to speak. Is there a gate, or is there a filter, so to speak?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your thoughts. Anybody else?
Hi, Mary.
Hey, Gregory, how are you?
Very good, thanks. I thought I'd just jump in for a couple of reasons, just to kind of give maybe just a few comments and food for thought. One of the locations that you mentioned, Morocco, I'm sure you're aware of what's going on there. They've got a young. I'm very heavily involved in a few projects in a couple of the kind of the less well-known regions, but that are earmarked for huge investment over the next 5 to 9 years, and I'm sure that they'd be perfect for the kind of city that you're talking about. But obviously the king is quite a young king now. He's very forward-thinking. He has his plan vert, his green plan, which is all based around creating cities that are sustainable and green and carbon neutral, or if not carbon positive. And incorporate all the technologies that have kind of been mentioned here today, smart technologies, renewables, wind, solar, all the good things that we know are super sustainable. But I think also one of the things to bear in mind is also the social impact. So when you're going into these places and creating these amazing environments for people to live, and I agree with what people have said as well, this whole notion of intergenerational living and creating communities is super important. But for example, if you were to go into southern Morocco, in the Sahara, which is earmarked for amazing future development, you've got some new airports being put in, etc. So infrastructure is going in. I know that it'd be super important to make sure that the locals are involved, the people that live there, who currently women, children, men, whomever they are, whom currently are super underprivileged, are brought into this circular economy. So one of the things that we're doing is we're making sure that, for example, if we're putting in greenhouses to grow fresh fruit and veggies, it's the local people that are taught how to farm these greenhouses. So you create this circular economy. They earn money. They can afford to feed their families. Likewise, and the kids as well. These kids are hugely privileged. So one of the things that we're looking at is bringing in. I'm a Brit, so we're bringing in kind of British skills, methods, methodologies to benefit the local people, whether it be in terms of medical care, education, farming, whatever it might be. So I think it's super important to create these amazing environments for people to live, but also certainly from a Moroccan perspective, it would be really important. And I imagine it spreads out to any country that's looking to create a smart city to make sure that it benefits the locals as well.
Absolutely. We are definitely taking that into consideration. It's very important. The locals are going to be in the city and will be part of the city. So it is not going to be, this is inclusive. This is, diverse. And we want to embrace the local environment, the cultures, respect all that, right? So we're not going to come in and have a city that feels like San Francisco in Morocco. But I can tell you, Jill, the architect who's on the call, he owns a home in Morocco. He loves Morocco. I love Morocco. Marinella loves Morocco. So I don't know. I mean, it could very well happen in Morocco, but
Be perfect.
So
nothing firmed up.
I have one question since Jill is here, right?
Okay.
Hi, Jill and Marisol. How are you? I've been with Maria talking about the project because I had here in Norway 2 people very interested in this in Morocco for this project. So I think that they will start helping as well. So the initial idea and the design, which I saw, is kind of like a flower, right? I mean, what is the motivation that you had for that? Second, as I say, I have another project in which we are going to deploy many communities around the world, in which people get their basic needs, and then we take technology as a service. And yes, technology should be integrated to develop this both the autonomous economies, but also better use of natural resources and any other resources. So, and it complements very well with also with Hera cities. So in fact, can be the same cities, can be the same communities. We just have to define what is the demographics for all of those cities. Because my project is actually it's called Fabulous Futurist, in which I'm a technologist, I'm an engineer, but we are many philanthropic technologists that just want to put real cool machines into the communities, right? Like I grew up with my father working as a civil engineer in making like aqueducts for the indigenous and things like this. So I know it can be done, and it's very simple. We just went too crazy into big stuff, but actually we can make a small wind turbine with magnets. We can do, you know, so many cool stuff at a micro level. Mm-hmm. So in the design that you have, I see is, you know, it's like I see that this is gonna be more like a Mecca, right? Like at least the first city, the ones that is in Morocco. Are the other cities gonna keep the same theme? Are they gonna be keeping the same architectural design, or that will be defined differently? Because yes, there will be one city that is kind of like the monument. I see that one is Morocco. What about the other ones?
Yeah, so I just see a note from Gil. It looks like he can't speak right now. He said he would come to us in a minute. So I'll let him raise his hand when he's ready. He's probably multitasking.
Hi, Mary. I could join right now. I mean, I'm sorry that I have another meeting at the same time, as I told you, Mary. But I think that Marisol's question is very important. It's very important to say that Hera, wherever it will be, is going to respect the culture and the needs of the country, and especially the site where it's going to be. Because as an architect nowadays, we cannot, you know, design like what we did something like, I don't know, 30 or 50 years ago. We respect people, we respect their culture, and we get everyone involved into the project, which is the most important. Because the most of the time in the past, many people said, well, we know exactly what we have to do for you. We have the answer. We know, we are, you know, the specialist. But nowadays we are different. We know that we need everyone to be involved in a project, in each project. It doesn't mean that we are going to make a kind of puzzle. Of course, there is a master plan. There is, you know, the economy side is very important. But to answer to your specific question about the shape of the building, the convent center, it's a symbolic architecture. It could be something really different when we're going to build it, because if it's, you know, in a place where the symbol is not, you know, doesn't mean much to people, of course it will be different. But the symbol of the sphere, it's a classic one, it's femininity. It's also, you don't face the big facade. It's something circular. You can have different gates to get in. So there is something, you know, gentle, a gentle vision. And also it's the shape of our planet and so on. So we can say a lot about, I mean, the shape of different buildings. For example, the museum, it's like a cube and full of you know, drawers that you open and close and so on. So all of that is symbolic, of course. When we talk about the design, it will be different in each place, because we have to consider, I mean, the climate, we have to consider the culture, we have to consider so many things. And what is important is to be sustainable. What does that mean? Of course, many people are talking about that nowadays. We have to be green, we have to be sustainable, but there is not just one answer. The answer has to be appropriate to where we focus and for what kind of people. So there is going to be, you know, on each place, local people. Here I answer to Gregory, I think. Of course, locals are involved in that and in different levels, in different aspects, because when you go somewhere, you don't have one single and, you know, one kind of population. You have also mixed. It's a question of scale. The scale is very important to think about in all, I mean, aspects. The landscape, you know, the nature, what we're going to build or not to build, because nowadays, before building, we think about no building, because sometimes you arrive somewhere and there is something already existing. So are you going to destroy everything, or are you going to think about twice how you can change, I mean, not only the shape, but the what you're supposed to do in these different spaces and so on. This is the reason why it will be very flexible, not only for the people of the present, but also for the future, because we build for long term. We know that the most of the time, 8 years is, you know, when you speak about BEAM and all that stuff, you think about 8 years, and during these 8 years, I mean, the life of a building, for example, it will change several times. So all of that we have to think of, and we have many different tools for that. So I don't know.
Can I ask you, it was very good answer, thank you. But based on what you were saying, what will be the main differentiator for this city being a woman's city? Or a city made under with women, right? Because yes, it has, you respect the environment, you respect the cultural settings, you respect. So what in the architectural design or in the planning, civil planning design of the city has the reflection of the woman DNA, right? Because I think that what I have understand is that yes, at today's world, we lost the DNA of femininity, right? Absolutely. We lost the DNA of femininity in everything, in technology, and also in the city planets and in the society functionality, right? Because it like, and I will say, functionality of the society is something that we need to target first, right? Because with that we can fix the technology, right? Do a little technology that is more suitable for everybody or something. But if we don't change the functionality, right, of that feminine value into the society, we will never achieve anything. And I know some people has been playing around the archetypes, that the maiden, the witch, the take care, the mother nature, and for me, I will say, and it goes with Susan again, it is just the culture of love, right? The culture of intuition, love, intuition. So I wonder, again, how this city could, in the hands, of an architect, or in the mind of an architect, be reflecting that feminine functionality. Is that possible? That will be magic to me. I will move immediately.
Of course, it's possible. And of course, when many people are thinking about that, and the question comes quite often, because what is a city in honor of women? Of course, it's difficult to answer.
Yeah.
Because it will be not definitely a pinkish city, a superficial city, and all of these awful aspects that so many people are still today thinking of. of course, it will be totally different and very simple. What is simple? It's to make a place where women are not scared, are not, feel protected, not by others, but just themselves as a human being. So we have examples for that. A very simple one. For example, during daytime in a park, when you see a bench, you just want to sit 5 minutes or maybe more on a bench. You sit down, you're a man, you can stay there half an hour. You're a woman, you never stay more than 5 minutes and you leave. Because you don't feel insecurity. You feel, your senses are not open for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So your senses have to be open for the right reasons. You're talking about love. So this is true. This is your connection with nature. There is a spiritual dimension in that.
Yeah.
And it's not, and we are not talking of, a community who is closed and thinking of, a kind of paradise we're going to make and so on. Of course not. Life is not like that. Life is full of different things, positive and negative.
Yeah, but you touch around security, because like for me, I'm a multidimensional being. I'm everywhere, right? But that happened because of the level of security I didn't acquire from the environment. Actually grew up very much, I grew up in Medellin, Colombia, right? On the time of Pablo Escobar. So I'm all the time analyzing where I'm gonna be safe, right? And that analyzing everybody's gonna be, I am predicting like 5 steps ahead, right? Because my nature is very intuitive, but also because I grew up this way. And that actually has developed in me more intuition, right? Like more access to knowledge that I am, I'm in a world of infinite options. So what you say about developing that sense of security in people, that goes against me on the survival thing, but I think it's actually the right way, because security is the right way, not to develop confidence, but security is the right way to get access to information and to connect with the heart. Yeah, exactly.
You're open and then you can spend your time to more interesting things, because this is gone. So this is on the side. You can leave fully.
Yeah.
But security, it's not, again, making a design which is, closed and exclusive and so on.
No.
What is difficult is it's all about education, because we are all, the way we are educated changed everything. Yesterday, I had a very big meeting about that. And I saw that the questions coming from women were totally different than the question coming from men, not the same ones.
Yep.
So I said, did you notice that to the audience? I said, did you notice that? And we are talking, and we are in a democracy. We are in a country where we can talk and our voice is free to speak. But imagine in so many countries where we can do nothing, you can speak, so imagine the different kind of level. So what is important is to make the opportunity that everyone can, this is the reason why all generations are concerned, any kind of people, because as you are in a community, an open one, but you are yourself, 100%. And everybody has to respect you as a person with your own personality. This is the reason why there is no more, limit between men and women, because you see a person, you don't see a woman or a man. Of course, there is always, what we all know about the relation between people. different gender and so on. Of course, because this is natural, but it could be done in a way that we don't have to protect in the future people the same way. So the education is very important, and the design of the city has to promote that.
Right.
In everything that you do, you don't even have to think about it. It's very difficult to give the right answer, and we have to work a lot about that to make it, you know, a true thing, not something like a gadget or just a talk. You know, it's very important. It's a serious tema. So
Yeah.
well, I could explain more and more about that and giving you many other details, but the meeting today was to listen to you much more than speaking. So of course, if you have any question I can answer to, I will. Definitely.
Yeah. You know what, Jill, that's very important. I think, you know, I come from such a strong technology background that I always look at technology to solve everything. But in many cases, there's a very beginning of the culture, right? I have to say, I learned something very great from Bob Galvin years ago at Motorola about respect. I mean, he really forced, you know, like a mission and a vision that everybody embraced. Like anybody on the front line was more important than the CEO. And he demonstrated that day in and day out, because they're doing the work, they're dealing with the issues. And I think when you start to, and you can create a society, right? One of the people who's not on the call today, Olga, she's one of our partners for Hera TV on the Creative Society, and they have like, I want to say like a bajillion people around the world that are all working on this new society in regards to about love and kindness and all those kinds of things that needs to be incorporated, because the way we're operating right now is not working. I mean, we've got so much civil disobedience everywhere, and people are angry and, you know, frustrated for so many reasons, which they all, I mean, I can see why, right? So I think that the culture side of this and society part is going to be really important as we build this out. But I was thinking, for me, when I had an incident, I used, you know, I gave everybody my location, and I had a WhatsApp chat that if I was in trouble, I just said, find me, I'm in trouble, right? And it was kludgy, but, you know, it gave me a level of security. But I'd rather not have to live in a space where I'd have to even use something like that, right? So Laura, you got your hand up.
Yes, something that Gil was talking about regarding the culture, to understand that this is not a blank slate. This is not tabula rasa. That no matter what, we're all coming into this, whoever's involved in the creation of this particular culture, this society, this city, we all come in with something. And I'm thinking of Mary Ainsworth research on mother attachment, and that something was mentioned earlier. I beg your pardon, I don't remember who was saying it, about to what extent can someone leave and then return with either separation anxiety, with like secure anxiety, secure attachment, anxious attachment, or avoidant attachment. And that's the foundation of the pillar of all research that's been done with mother attachment with child. And if this is the mother, and then we're giving birth, you are giving birth to something, and bringing in and developing and creating and nurturing this birth of something, that's the mother. And then bringing in people who already have their own cultural values, mores, experiences. It's not a tabula rasa. And this is just to consider, to what extent, think about a child. If the mother's in the room and the child's in the room, and then research perspective, the mother leaves for 2 minutes and the mother comes back. Does the child freak out when the mother's gone and the mother attaches, returns? To what extent does that child have the ability to then return to that mother in a safe place? Know that, okay, mom's gone now. She's only going to be gone for a couple of minutes. I know she's always going to be there. That's secure attachment. When mom comes back, does she forget you, mom? I want nothing to do with you. You left me. Avoidant, anxious, the mother leaves and the child freaks out. So it's just something to consider, that you're giving birth to something that's huge. And this is a nurturing mother, and that people are going to come in with their own stuff. And so there needs to be a foundation of support.
Yep.
Here.
Very good point. Susan.
I'll make this quick. I have like 3 questions. Number one, government, in terms of if you're building the city in Morocco, is the Moroccan government going to have any say in the way you run your government, or is this absolutely independent like a country, right? So, and that has a lot to do with it, right? Because if they do have any say, then we're limited in terms of how we can really implement that change as fast as we want. So that's one question, because we can have 10 million ideas, but we also have to know where our limitations are. Number two, what percentage of your spending will be on building an eco-friendly city, right? Because that's hyper expensive. But if you're going to build a city, you might as well, because that would be amazing, right? To have it eco-friendly and highly environmentally conscious, right? And teaching right from the get-go with children on how to be conscious about our environment, about one another. And the last thing is, I think, in terms of building the city, because I do trust that Gil is the right architect here, because I'm sensing his energy. And this feeling of safety really comes from not only internal, but great architects can build buildings that can instill that safety feeling, that loving feeling, so I'm sure he's going to build all the environment, the whole system to be very nurturing. That I'm not even worried about, which is great, because that will help. Because the culture of not feeling safe is a culture, right? So we have to unlearn what we've learned. So Marisol, that is true. It doesn't just come overnight, right? But now the only question I have here is, when we're building the city and you have 1 million people in there, are you immigrating 1 million people at once? Or are you starting from the right foundation of the right core of people and then extending from there? So, because that will also affect the speed in which we initiate that change, right? So these are the factors I think that I'm sort of stuck on before I even give any advice on what to do. But to answer Marisol's question, I'm working very closely and tied to a sex trafficking expert here in the US, and she's incredible. She's a survivor, a thriver herself. And she's built incredible preventative education programs as a leader for government and for the US. And I'm about to help her get it out to the rest of the world. She works with some high-level psychologists. And I think when it comes to the sex trafficking realm, it's such a specialized area that you should have a special committee of women leaders around the world, because she's tied to all the women leaders around the world for sex trafficking, and have that special unit that covers that. I think that's all I have to say. So if you want me to introduce you to Catherine, absolutely, holy moly, she's incredible.
Perfect. Yes, thank you. I will. There is other groups that they are developing video games for targeting these human traffickers. So yes, thank you.
Yep.
And yes, somebody.
Yes, I was going to say in regards to hang on a second here. I'm going to end it. So I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Jill, did you want to respond to Susan?
Oh yes, just the most important thing, Susan. First, thank you for your that you join our vision of Hera City. But of course, no, it won't be a one shot 1 million people coming to Hera City, and it would be a mistake to do that. But I'm not talking about the money that we would need for that. This is not the right question, because money, it's not that complicated to have. It's the goal. So this is the reason why the site is very important. And from the beginning, I asked for a site, for a location, which is possible to expand. So I said it has to be with no limits at the beginning. Of course, there is always a limit in the end, but we should, like a child, let it growing and until the right size. Because nowadays we know that two big cities, and especially nowadays, are not that healthy. If we don't include in it the landscaping, the nature, it looks like something stupid to people sometimes. They think, well, this is just green, this is just a garden, this is not that interesting. Well, a few trees, what else? Of course not, because to connect ourselves to nature, which is the thing that we lost, it needs to learn a lot, to understand, and then to integrate into our behavior, that aspect. When I see even my own story, I always liked very much nature, but I'm urban. I was always living in a city, a big one, not the biggest one, but Paris is not that small. It's the capital of France. Of course, I travel a lot, I go everywhere and so on. But so I thought that there was, two possibilities: being in a city full of concrete, and because it's the idea, and it's also our heritage. We think about many things coming from the 19th century, healthy, clean, safe, all of that things. It comes from the 19th century. And there is the countryside, nothing between, nothing, So all of that is nowadays, totally different, because people, I'm not only talking about COVID, that people all want a house outside, being in the countryside, because they are scared of this virus. This is not the right, way to think about things, because when we go too fast, we do mistakes. So coming back to your first question about the scale, it will be a reasonable scale. I can tell you how many people, not too small, because it has to be, an economy, a system, an ecosystem, which is, working by itself with the people, the locals people, and other people coming sometimes to live there or just to visit one day or a couple of days or month, and going back to their own country, because this is not their culture around, and maybe the city is not big enough for them. Some others discover that they feel so good in there, so they just try to. So it's giving the opportunity to people again to become themselves, and of course to be how do you call it in English? Ethic and equal economy, respectful to people who are living there. Of course, this is very important too. These are the values, but the way we're doing it is for long term. So doing something for long term, if you decide today to make a huge city, even if you are the best designer or architect on earth, you can have a vision that far. Even utopias in the past, which were built, sometimes were a mistake. And by the time the program changed totally, and it was supposed to be something at the beginning and became, by the time, something totally different. So instead of doing that, we have to give to the future generation the possibility to absorb this knowledge, to absorb this heritage, and to transform it. This is the reason why it's a live, it's a live city. It's not something just rigid forever.
Right.
Just to make ourselves much more confident, because it's strong. It's a rock, it won't move. Of course it will. Everything disappear one day, because life is like that. And if we don't do that, we are doing something against life. We are part of, the living. So we are not, disconnected, even if many religion, many kind of different powers said to us, we are unique. This is us, humankind, and the rest. No, we are part of it. So we have to be, fully part of it. I don't mean by that we have to live in a simple way in terms of, saying goodbye to everything, to the right tools that could be useful. Of course, no. Technology we will use definitely, but keeping in mind that we have to use it the right way, the right balance. It's a question of balance. It's a question of balance. It's feng shui. It's something, you know, the energy, everything has to be think. Yeah. Well, I speak too much. Sorry.
No, you don't. You're fine. Thank you so much. So I just want to be cognizant here of the time because we're at the top of the hour, and I don't like to lead things any longer than than necessary. But I do want to, if there's one person who hasn't spoken who would really like to say something, go ahead, Christina.
So to me, it's so important that, you know, we are coming together and we are brainstorming because, you know, this is something that we are building for ourselves, but also for the future generations. So, you know, each and everyone comes from a different place, you know, in the world, and we have our own, you know, frustrations, our own like things that don't work where we live. For example, I live in New York City. There is no safetiness in the street. There is no safetiness with your finances in terms of your bank account, because there is fraud that is committed, and almost even if you were calling whoever you were supposed to call, they can't really take on cases anymore because there are so many and they can't keep up with them. So what we are building here, we are building a strong foundation, and each and every idea that we're coming up with either is related to security in finances, with your bank account, with your homes, with the environment, with schools, with children, right? With mental health, with everything that we are brainstorming here. Everything comes to set a strong foundation for future, right? And I believe that we need to do this for the future generation, because when women are thriving, society is thriving. So we need to make sure, you know, we are coming from corporate world, right? And we've experienced this imbalance between the family time and the, you know, the work time. And if something happens to you, you know, you are replaced. Nobody's going to build a statue for you, but you know, you've lost everything you've had, right? Your family and everything, plus your health. So what we are doing here, we are just bringing awareness towards all this. And I'm sure that every month we're gonna make these even better, like with more ideas, and we're gonna be able to get clarity. And I think it's gonna be even clearer once the location is going to be settled, because that way we'll know what we're gonna have to play with, even the currency, like financial wise and everything else. But until then, I think the staples, right, the milestones should be in place. And I think we should take notes, right, and just see where we need to improve, which are the areas that have not been covered, and keep adding to these.
Yep, great. Thank you very much. All right, everybody. I really enjoyed your company today. I'm going to be setting up another session in 30 days from now, so it'll be on the 16th, probably a Friday. I'll send out I'm going to use the same link, so, you know, hang on to it. You're all good. And I'll send out a reminder to everybody. So I really appreciate your input. We're going to build this city and want to hear from
Can we propose?
everybody.
Can we propose like a topic, which I think that there is a hole somehow. Yes, the cities have to respect a little bit the culture and everything, but we know that culture has been contaminated as well, right? Because none of the culture in the last 1 year has been pro-woman. So I will say, and I was reading a book about the first civilizations that actually came to Earth. Actually it was, I'm gonna find the name of it. It was just women. I mean, but this is again a spiritual talking. So if there is a way that we can maybe talk more about how to design a city beyond the culture, right? Like going back to, I mean, where did everything change it? I mean, at the time of the Egyptians, or it will be really cool to have some historians. I mean, what can we actually change? Can we actually do something totally different and just put a new civilization just based on, you know, not culture?
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think what we're going to do is look at everything, right? So
Yes.
from technology to culture, whoever
Yeah.
attends the session, I want to hear their voice, whether they want to talk about technology, the platform, the culture, the whatever. So it's really
Yes.
dependent on who shows up to the session and what they want to share, because this is your all session. That's the way I look at it. So, and we want to soak it in as we bring the city together. So we want to hear from everybody on everything. So thank you for joining, and I'll see you next month. And make sure you save the file, the chat, hit the 3 buttons so that you can save the chat. I'm going to be posting this recording on Hera TV, which I have posted the site on it, so you can find it. A lot of information there. So thank you. I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, Mary, just a quick thing, a slight twist. We live in a world of reality creation. We create our own realities. So I think, you know, part of what we should be doing is we're not victims of anything. I think if we can start focusing on the reality that we want to create for ourselves, where we want to be, this city and this culture will grow itself. So I think there can be a focus on what the problems are, let's fix them, but there can also be a focus on, yeah, there were problems, but let's create the reality we want, and let's build the culture, and the city will build itself in and around the reality that we want. So I think you need to, that's the way I see things. It may not be everybody's take on life, but I think it should be, you know, a focus.
Is that
Very good
the
point.
problem of knowing what we want? That's the problem, you know, especially when women has been in so much oppression for so long time, right? So we need to discover that.
I think we lost her, but you're right on, Graham. We should be able to create what we want, regardless of how things are. So you're right on. All right, everybody, it's a wrap. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your input, and I'll see you next month. Bye, everybody.
Ciao now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.